Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Hindsight, where we see bad situations that can be avoided by good reasoning. But sometimes a situation is unavoidable and self-defense is needed to get you to safety.
All right, welcome to another episode of Hindsight. Folks, here at Hindsight, unlike other media content providers that criticize and character assassinate, we character assassinate and criticize constructively with style. Yes, that's what we do. Today we're going to be talking about a justified shooting of a disturbed man that could have possibly been prevented. You know what it is. I'm Beat Physicist. I'm here with Mr. Suave and Sensei Buddha and one more. How you guys doing?
Good, fellas, good. Who's that one more? Who's that special guest we got on here? Who's that special guest?
Oh man, this is a gentleman. Huh? Yeah.
Tut. Mr. Tut.
Yeah. Gentleman by the name of King Tut. Mr. Tut, how are you doing?
Doing well. Outstanding.
Excellent. All right. Special guest host today, chopping it up with us because of this particular incident. We had to get a outside opinion. We want to get all angles of this, and we want to try to be as objective as we can. So here we go. So this happened in Salt Lake City, Utah. This article comes to us courtesy of the Salt Lake Tribune, Thursday, September 28th, 2017. Michael Bruce Peterson, age 39, almost middle age, was shot and killed in the Maverik Parking Lot. This fatal shooting has been declared justified by Salt Lake County DA Sam Gill. The officers involved in the incident are 8-year veteran Gregory Lovell. He's the responding officer, and 20-year vet Lieutenant Andrew Oblad, and who happened to be working his last shift before retiring. He's the officer who shot and killed Peterson. Peterson was allegedly trespassing and harassing workers at a massage school. He also allegedly grabbed a woman's buttocks. Officer Lovell responded to the scene, tried to de-escalate the situation by following Peterson and telling him to stop and talk, have a conversation with him. Peterson ignored the officer. There's video, by the way, folks. Peterson ignored the officer's communication by continuing to walk away. The video is on the officer's body cam. So he kept walking to the Maverik parking lot and then proceeded to enter a vehicle that did not belong to him. Now, what's interesting is earlier in the video, he tries to get into Officer Lovell's patrol car. So let's put that in context. Officer Lovell then commanded Peterson to exit the vehicle, at which point Peterson, started calling him kinds of names, asshole and this and that. Lovell then proceeded to what the younger generation would say, can't even think of it.
You
right
want
now.
to he put the paws on him? Is that what you're trying to say? So he put the paws on him?
No. He put the taser. He shot him with the taser, but I was gonna. But anyway, he got the taser. He didn't really, put hands on him. But he gave him a little shock therapy, but that didn't work. So I don't know. Maybe he was on drugs. That's all alleged. We don't know. He survived that tase, and Lovell, not just survive it. Pretty much had no effect. Lovell's body camera then shows Paterson exiting the vehicle. Paterson. This is when This is when Paterson. As Suave said, started putting them paws on Officer Lovell, and at the end of it, Officer Lovell was getting hands put on him, and the guy was able to even get his baton. Lovell, radios for backup. Lieutenant Oblad responded. Officer Oblad's camera was being charged. It was the end of his shift. It's his last day. He's about to retire. And his body cam is recharging. Okay, so Lieutenant Oblad's given Peterson commands to cease and desist. Peterson then turned to attack Oblad with the baton that he got from Peterson. Oblad then fires 10 shots and neutralized the suspect. Both officers suffered injuries. Lovell, a broken ankle, broken nose, and lacerations. And it's quite short. I mean, the attack was less, I think, probably, I would say 30 seconds, maybe less than that. Oblad received contusions and lacerations, but it's not immediately known how he received them. Yeah, I can't see from the videotape, from the video footage, how he got them. Should also mention that Peterson has a history of arrests. In 2007, he'd been in and out of prison due to several parole violations, according to prison officials. So I think I may have messed up earlier by confusing Peterson with Officer Lovell. But yeah, sorry about that, folks. So he's getting treatment, in and out of jail. Grandmother, father of two. His grandmother has some things to say, but he's a father of two. This is a middle-aged man, father of two, caught using drugs and sent back to prison. He was released from prison to a halfway house on September 26, 2 days before the shooting. You know, there's some life pressures there. Definitely getting to him, in and out of jail. Middle-aged man. So they haven't released a toxicology report on the deceased suspect as of yet. So, yeah. Suave, go in.
Woo-wee! Beat physicists, thank you for the introduction. Thank you, listeners, for being here. Thank you for the special guest, Mr. Tut. Before I even go in to get these trolls and you some of them bitches out your feelings, I started how I always do. Everything here at the hindsight, our views and our views alone, our opinions, our thoughts, our voices, what we think. So don't take it just. Don't go out and get your ass beat saying hindsight taught you how to get your ass beat, because that's not what we told you to do. We just gave you some advice. That's my advice might be to run away. So like I said, what we say here is all for entertainment purposes only. Facts are facts, but it's still entertainment purposes only, okay? Let's get into it. Woo! Man, I'm watching the whole video here. And listeners, we're gonna put the video and the link up when we release this, so you can see and follow along, and you could come up with your own conclusions and see exactly what we're talking about, even though Brother Beat Physicist, he really went into it in detail, so you could kind of visualize it as he's speaking. He got that talent. Me being in the law enforcement, some background in that, you know, this was 100% justified. I ain't gonna lie, you know, there was ways this could have been avoided, but this rat bastard, Mr. Peterson, should have been shot a lot sooner, if you ask me. He shouldn't have made it this far. He shouldn't have made it to getting that, putting pause on Mr. Lovell, no, not Mr. Lovell, Mr. Oblad, taking his baton, whipping his ass in front of everybody. They ain't almost about to go whip Lovell's ass. He's about his retired, his last day. He done did his 20 years. He's like, I'm done being a beat cop. I could go home and chill with my family. And damn, I'm about to get my ass whipped with my dude who need help. Baton. Ain't that some shit? That's crazy, man. That's crazy. So now let's rewind. So they get a call. This dude is creeping around a massage parlor, a massage school. So these people are there, they're in a place of learning. They're trying to have you could call it a career or a skill, whatever they're trying to do there. They're working on themselves. They're doing it. They there and they try not to be bothered. You got this creep. This dude is 39 years old. What are you doing creeping around these females, man? You got kids. You just got out of jail, 2 days ago, I think? 2 days ago or 2 weeks ago, you just got out of jail. Get your shit together, man. What are you doing? So he's creeping around this building, and allegedly, he grabbed this chick's booty. Now, watching the video and then seeing what transpires after, I'm going to say that's a pretty strong allegedly, because if he went so far as he did and everything else, paid attention to the cop, don't know what the cop was asking him, or to the fighting, straight up to his death, he was not compliant, and it didn't seem like he was all there. So him allegedly grabbing some booty and harassing these people at the school, I believe that. It sound legit. And, his actions kind of prove it. So he's, the officer's called to the scene, and he's trying to touch base with the guy, but the guy, he's being real standoffish and just walking away, ignoring him as if he's nobody. At that point, ladies and gentlemen, me being a law enforcement or having law enforcement experience, or if you're in law enforcement, call for backup. There's no need for you to be going in like Captain Gung-Ho. You don't need to be Captain Saberho. You don't need to be Captain RoboCop. That's not what they're asking you to be there for. You're supposed to be there to uphold the peace of the community. Right now, the dude is still peaceful, even though he's harassing these people. But right now, you still could have handled this in a more civil, peaceful fashion. You could have called 2 or 3 people. Now you got, let's average each one of these people 200 pounds. Just throw out a number. They got 600 pounds versus 139-year-old, 180-pounder. He's not going to be able to stop that. Even though his hand skills at the end of the video were kind of impressive, I must say, I don't know what he was on or what he's been doing. He's in and out of jail. He might have been banging inside there, but he did put them hands on this cat. He put them hands on the officer. So maybe he could have taken those 3 officers, but it's highly unlikely. These guys should have been trained. He should have called for backup. Once he saw him walking away, he said, hey, I'm going north, south, east, west on this street. I need 2 patrol cars here, ASAP. We need to get this guy, and we need to talk to him ASAP. He's not responding to my direct commands. He's being semi-combative, and this can get ugly. Let's stop it before it gets worse. That's what it is. Everything is always proactive. Everything's reactive. Let's be proactive. Let's stop it before it gets to that point. Dang. So everything I just said, he didn't do. He did call for backup, but he didn't wait for it. He called a little late. The guy was walking. He tried to walk into another building. We kind of stopped him. And then the dude was like, whatever. He kept walking. Now he goes into his vehicle. Like we was having a little conversation in a pre-show conversation. I was talking to Mr. Tut. And he's like, hey, you got cars. You know where he's going. You could just follow him. And that'd be that. Wasn't no need to try to wrestle him in the car. I 100% agree with that. So the dude goes into the car. Mr. Oblad pulls out his taser. Boom. Hits him in the taser in the car. Now, the thing with tasers, if you don't know much about tasers, the taser he has is, I think, it's pretty standard issue on what law enforcement carry, especially the cops. It has 2 prongs that when you shoot it, it goes into the body. If it was supposed to go through the body, it's supposed to go through your shirt. It's supposed to kind of latch on to you. So as you're pressing that trigger, you send that charge. But it's just a cartridge. Once that cartridge is done, it's done. It doesn't look like he held it on very long, but then at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Let me step in for a second because I guess, my name is Beat Physicist, so there's some physics behind it. And at the end of the day,
I like that. Let me go ahead. School him, son. School him.
Just for a few seconds. What's happening is it's a capacitor. So a capacitor, you think of a taser as a capacitor, and it stores charge. So I tell, people all the time, some students and stuff like, hey, be careful in the lab. As a prank, you could take a small capacitor, hook up a battery to it in parallel, put the battery on the 2 leads. I think Sensei Buddha knows a little bit about this too. Flip it on, put the battery on or whatever, and then take a little bit to charge. And then you could throw it at somebody, and then they catch it. If they catch it with, give them a little shock because it discharges. Because you complete the circuit by holding on the 2 ends or whatever. So I think the tasers, right? They have 2 prongs that get shot into the suspect. Body, yes. Yeah. So you see that wire that gets so basically you're discharging the capacitor that has that charge stored already.
So it has a preset load on it, right? And you just closing the circuit.
Yeah, exactly.
The body's a circuit.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Your body completes the circuit, and then the charge goes, and then it flows through, and you have current, and then you have shock at a specific voltage. So it's not a voltage that can kill, and I don't know what the current rating is on those tasers, but just know that 10,000 volts at 1/3 of an amp can kill you. That's just, basic, unless you're in a bathtub or a pool, and then it's a little bit less because your body has less resistance. But we could go into that later. Anyway, yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there.
No food for thought. Thank you for that, brother. Thank you. Yeah, so he hits him with the taser. Now, I was looking at the video. I don't know how long he held it. He hit him for a little bit. But like B Physicist said in the intro, it did phase him a little bit, but he kind of shook it off. And that's why we're saying we don't, he don't really know what he's going up against still 100%. And that's when things just got nasty. Things just went crazy. This is when the suspect, I just say, I'm not trying to make fun of the situation, but Mr. Peterson threw down on Mr. Oblad. Thank God Mr. Oblad had pride called backup, because this dude don't look like he was stopping. And you see on the side, when you actually watch the video, you see on the side camera that he was hitting him. And I don't know, I'm just trying to think of what training did Mr. Oblad had. He should have had some self-defensive training, but you just hear him saying, ooh, ah, ooh, that's not a good sign. That's not. I mean, he was backpedaling. The guy was swinging at him, lunging at him. Like we talked in previous episodes, just little slips here and there. If just doing some basic shadow boxing, the slips from boxing, slip here, slip there, little duck, slip. Think of Mike Tyson, how he used to box. Duck, slip, duck, slip. Roy Jones Jr., slip, slip, slip. That little slips could have gave him enough to put his hands on him so his partner came and just wrestled with him, Or like I say, when I trained Aikido, if he could have blended his body into his and got him off balance and just keep deflecting all his attacks till his partner came so they could capitalize and have 2 against 1. But that didn't happen. I don't think he expected. That's what I want to say. I don't think he expected. Oblad didn't expect Peterson to come at him like that. And when he came at him, and he came at him bad. He busted up his nose. He had lacerations. He took the man's baton, and now he was hitting him with the baton. So he was at a complete loss. I don't even think he was even thinking about. He wasn't going for his gun. He was just completely out of it. He was out of it. And then when the backup finally came, Peterson was going after him with the baton, and we're trained to shoot center mass. It's not easy to shoot a moving target's arm. It's not easy to shoot a moving target's leg, even at 10 meters. That's really hard. Even your best sharpshooters, a target moving, that small piece, it's not as easy to hit as you think. Unless you're right up on me, like I'm telling you, if I'm grabbing you and then I just put it right to your leg or arm, that's one thing. But you having about 10 feet away from me, that's a far thing you gotta think. And when you're shooting, when you're discharging a firearm, you gotta think about, okay, I'm aiming center mass, and the main reason for that is for the casualties of bystanders. That gun could ricochet off the concrete and hit someone who's in the store just watching. Now you gotta answer for that. And now you're shooting off 10 shots. All 10 shots gotta be aimed at center mass. That's your biggest target. You're going when it comes to that point to stop the threat. You love people saying, "Oh, I'm going for headshots." You see people in the getting range, "Oh, I'm busting for headshots." Yeah, that's all in cool if you had a rifle, or if you're hunting, or maybe out sniping in the military, or you're just gaming. But in real life situation, that is not practical. That is not logical. It might happen, but trust me, you are not nine times out of 10. If you're aiming for somebody's head and they coming at you in a stressful, high stress, adrenaline pumping situation like that, you are not hitting their head. You're gonna be hitting the shoulder, the center mass. You're gonna be shooting all over the place. And that's realistic. That's statistics. That's why in law enforcement, and any law enforcement people who listening, we train to shoot center mass. That's the biggest target. That's the most mass. It's gonna, it's covering the most space. So if you did miss, you still got a lot of chest, a lot of gut, a lot of neck, collarbone to hit, chunking off pieces so it don't hit nobody who just bystanding and have a stray kill somebody who is not involved at all. If somebody lose their life because you're trying to stop the bad guy, and the bad guy didn't get stopped because you're shooting like a cowboy, now innocent person got kicked. So I mean, just take it back, man. I think. I think, like I said, I think Mr. Peterson, he was, 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 he was this dude got what he deserved. Like I said earlier, it could have been stopped way, way sooner. That way it wouldn't have been fatal. But, once it got down to this point, officer, I think, completely justified. And I know his last day on the job, his body cam is charging. He's not thinking he's coming in a situation like this. When you're like that, you don't know what situation you're coming into. He had to end up taking from the holster and discharging that firearm and ending someone's life, because he was, in fact, looking at that video, he was trying to end the life of the other officer, and who knows who else he would have went after, because that officer was down. He could have took his gun and started going on rampages to himself. So that's all I got on this rat bastard. All right, Sensei Buddha, all you, brother.
Thank you very much, Mr. Suave, and great summation of the story there. Thank you there for that, beat physicist. Just one thing for clarification, it was Officer Lovell who was the responding officer, and he's 8 years on the force. And Officer Oblad, he's the one who's the lieutenant. He's 20 years on the force. There was just a few things that I personally believe that most definitely must be done here. I've always, always, always have been against a single officer in a patrol car. I think that's not very prudent. I think there should always be two officers. And when all officers are there, whether you're working with a two-man set, four-man set, or more, there has to be tactical training so that everybody's always on the same page. Now, sometimes people get training in an academy situation, and then that's it. They don't keep sharpening up their chops, as we would say. I think for Officer Lovell, if Officer Oblad had been there, or if he had another partner, they could have dealt with this. I don't feel that the suspect, Mr. Peterson, should have had so much leeway to keep walking tall and just keep going until he went to the Maverik Parking Lot. The second thing is, along with your firearms training and training with the taser, you need to have your hand-to-hand skills up. In the video, we see Officer Lovell, when he was trying to get Peterson out of the Jeep, out of the vehicle that did not belong to him. It was very clear he came bolting out after being tased. When the fight ensued, and unfortunately Officer Lovell fell down, it said further in the longer version of the article that his nightstick had rolled away. And then, of course, this is how Peterson was able to then obtain control and get the nightstick. That, in my humble opinion, should have never happened. The officer should have exercised good judgment so that nobody gets to any of your weapons. God forbid if Peterson had gotten to his firearm instead of that nightstick. I think it would have turned out to be a completely different situation, and there could have been more carnage that could have ensued after he was, if he unfortunately had shot Officer Lovell. So there needs to be more hand-to-hand combat. There needs to be more coordinated type of defensive tactics. And also, if you're dealing with someone who's an EDP or someone who's on drugs, there may also need, again, some type of special tactics to deal with that person. Hey, they may end up having to still shoot him, but I feel that this could have ended a lot sooner, a whole lot sooner. And when Officer Oblad, when he came into the scene, Lieutenant Oblad, he most definitely did the right thing to put the suspect down, and unfortunately he expired. But again, you need more intensive tactical training. I have been very fortunate to work out in Staten Island with some of the corrections officers there, and we did a lot of techniques where we were dealing with blunt and edged weapons. The club weapon definitely comes into play as well, how to redirect, just like Mr. Suave had talked about. He could have used an Aikido type of technique to blend. He could have used techniques where we shut the arm down and stripped that out. But even before that, when the gentleman was in the car, when Mr. Peterson was in the vehicle, he could have used other tactics and definitely put himself at a longer, safer distance to have either drawn his other weapon or maybe used other type of tactics. And, I do understand that in the police academy, they do have them go through tactics, and I know the tactics are good, but they must have more extensive training. To me, they have to check in a lot more, maybe once a month. The officers should should have an ongoing training course 2 to 3 nights a week in just hand-to-hand tactics, pistol tactics, because you need these things to be such second nature that there's no second guessing yourself. There's not a confusion situation or an indecisive situation, so that you don't ever get any of your equipment stripped from your body as you're trying to get an unruly suspect. But again, when Mr. Peterson was obviously coming out of the officer's patrol car, that right there should have let him know that he was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and something could have been done there. But again, I've always been against when they've had single patrolmen in a car. People might try to say, oh, that's too much money. We may not have a budget for it. They must then look for a budget for it. It's always better to have two heads than one, and especially if they have proper tactical training to deal with these type of such situations. I think it could have gone smoother. I really personally feel that it could have ended a lot quicker, and they could have really subdued this man. And if they have to make the decision to use deadly force, it's going to be definitely justified. As in this situation, when Lieutenant Oblad had came to the scene, and dealt with the incident. And to quote Officer Oblad from the article, they said that he thought this guy had on body armor because he just kept coming. So in total, it was 10 shots fired by Oblad, and it finally brought the suspect down. So again, more tactical training. I think the situation, thank goodness, it ended where Officer Oblad came as backup. But to me, more tactical training, more baton retention techniques. Just really, I just feel that it could have ended a lot sooner. But that's all that I would want to speak on that. And now I pass it to Mr. Tut.
Your Grace. Okay, Your Grace, Your Highness.
All right, hey man, this is Tut. I'm not gonna say I'm the most knowledgeable when it comes to law enforcement, but I've had a lot of experience with dealing with people like that. The one thing I felt like the Leo messed up with, and Leo means law enforcement officer, by the way. He messed up because when you make contact with that individual, if you are talking to the guy, with respect, and you getting that kind of feedback from that guy like that, you already know he's gonna be a problem. You already know that if you're smart, you already know that you probably should wait for assistance until before you engage this guy, because in the field we call first you ask, then you tell, and then you do. And he asked them, or actually he more so, he did try to ask them, and he said, hey, can you hold up for a bit, blah blah. Now he messed up because, number one, I would have never tased the individual in the car. All right. The main reason why is because you don't necessarily have a clear shot when you're shooting through a window. I mean, it's not like you're aiming for a specific body part. You're just sticking it in the window and just shooting. Number two, what if you can't control any of your bodily functions when your body's charged with electricity? So let's say if he had his foot on the accelerator pedal, and this guy tased the guy, and he can't control his foot. Next thing you know, he accelerates into a gas station or into a crowd full of people. Now you're increasing the liability. Now it's collateral damage. I felt like the Leo kind of got in his feelings because he felt like he was disrespected, and that's what happens. And the problem is, a lot of times, that's the difference between you being a professional and just like a normal person who's not in law enforcement. You, as a professional, are trained to handle a situation like that. Now, when you allow yourself to get in your feelings, because we do get in our feelings, it happens. It does happen. Trust. But in a use of force situation, sometimes you got to kind of like remove your feelings away from that, because now that can escalate a situation, and you go from the 0 to 1 situation to the 100 mile-an-hour situation such as that. He should have just allowed him to get in the car and just kept the visual on him, got in his car, kept the visual on him, just until he got more bodies over there to properly handle the situation. But the problem with guys like that is once they feel like they're disrespecting, and I'm talking about the Leo. Same thing goes for the assailant, the guy who started the attack. The Leo. You kind of got to remove the bravado from that because you can't beat everybody. And it's obvious you could not beat that guy. All right, he got the Beats by Dre put on. So the thing is, like Buddha Sensei said, a lot of times with an individual like that, you got to kind of cover your tools, and your tools would be your firearm, and you use your hand or use you kind of use your hand or kind of angle your body away from whoever you're facing so they cannot gain access to your defensive tool. Because this is exactly what happens when you have somebody like that gain access to your defensive tool. It goes from a use of force to a fatal use of force. And now there's paperwork involved. Now there's investigations involved, and nobody wants to be under investigation. I don't care what anybody thinks. I don't care what the public thinks, because you got a lot of people who armchair quarterbacking. I'm telling you right now, nobody wants to be under investigation. Nobody wants to be jammed up because of some stupid shit. At the end of the day, everybody wants to go home with the same holes they came in with, pretty much. So you know what I mean? I mean, and then a lot of times when this always happens when you have a partner and when you're rolling with somebody, you got a partner. Sometimes, or not even having a partner, when you have somebody who's assisting you, you run into the situation. Okay, we call it like the after action report. You look at what you could have did right, what you could have did wrong. This guy was on his way to retirement, man. So he basically was like, you know what? I'm gonna help this guy out, because he probably could have just chilled. He probably could have just chilled. He's probably ready to log out the computer. He's just ready to, just chilling, ready to go home. But he wanted to help out, because you got some guys, the good guys like that. Even though he's on his way to retirement, because a lot of times you got people on their way to retirement, they don't give a fuck. They don't care, because guess what? It's their last day. They ain't trying to get jammed up. And now on his last day, he got involved in a situation like that, just because one of the Leos felt like he was disrespected. And I guarantee you, this guy, the guy who was fatally shot, I guarantee you he did that for a reason. Like you said, you have people emotionally disturbed, but you also have some people who can't hack it. They've been in prison so much that they can't hack it in real life. And they'll do anything they have to do in order to get themselves back into what they're used to, their comfort zone, which is prison, sadly, for some people. And that's why a lot of people say, hey, you have all these people incarcerated. Believe it or not, you got some people who need to be incarcerated, because they need to be told what to do, what time to do it, and when to do it, because they're just so used to being in and out of the system. And then once they're out of the system, in the free world, as we call it, they can't handle it. Period. So Suave raised a lot of good points. So I'm not really going to go into all the other stuff, because Suave already explained a lot of the things that go along with it. My chime in, the use of force the fatal use of force was justified, but I felt like who was it? Mr. Oblad? Was that the guy, the responding officer, the initial responding officer?
Mr. Oblad was the initial one, and Mr. Oblad was the initial.
Was the assistant? He was
right.
providing assistance.
Lovell, I think that was the responding officer.
Lovell was the one who was retiring. Lovell was.
Okay, he was a retired guy. And that seat, man, it's like I feel sorry for a guy like that, because he was on retirement.
The one
man,
who responded.
Yeah.
Mr. Oblad.
Mr. Oblad basically called a situation in which
Oblad is retiring. Lovell was responding on. There you go.
Oh, so wait. So the guy, the body camera was Mr. Oblad.
No, Mr. Lovell.
Lovell, yeah.
Mr. Lovell. That was the body cam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was a justified shoot in my eyes. It's almost like, honestly, the guy wanted to be shot. You know what I mean? Like, we call that suicide by cop, too. But, I mean, I don't know, man, because he got in his car, he just wanted to leave. So, I don't know. A guy usually wants to get shot, usually just like, come on, shoot me. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Maybe he just wasn't feeling it that day, man. You got people like that sometimes. Sometimes, these guys, the criminals, they're in and out of the system. They don't like authority. And all they want to do is they just want to go back to prison.
Wow.
So, but I'll turn it over to whoever's next. I guess the moderator.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see. Where do I start? Because, like I said, I took some notes. I want to really touch on one thing about Sensei Buddha had said with two-man patrol. Now, we got to, I guess, decide where we want to go as a society in terms of law enforcement, basic local law enforcement. Because, I mean, if you think about it, the average salary of starting salary of a police officer is what, about $30,000 a year. So,
Depending on what county, brother, it's even less than that. It's less than that.
Yeah.
Some small counties, they're making like 24, 25 a year.
So, for one, that type of job, who's going to be attracted to that kind of job? Now, again, this isn't, the brave men in law enforcement get it in. But, I think with anything, you get, people who, like King Tut was saying, man, not be professional all the time. That happens with all of us. Sometimes something happens, we get in our feelings. But in this particular line of work, you kind of have to judge situations more dispassionately than than other things in life. But first of all, the pay. So you can't exactly go out and get the best and brightest, so to speak. You know what I mean? I just didn't want to. I didn't want that to sound like a knock, but whatever.
No, it's the truth. But I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth. And honestly, let me tell you, depending on the municipality, law enforcement can earn upwards of six figures a year. Now, that's usually major metropolitan and or federal law enforcement agencies, depending on the agency. Now, like you said, small town municipalities, 1-2 officers, talking about one stoplight, one stop sign town, kind of, you know what I mean?
Like Fargo,
as we call it, country ass towns. They make their revenue off of traffic infractions. So you're right. A lot of times you don't get the best and the brightest. You do get a lot of what I call meatheads. And a meathead is basically somebody who uses their brawn in a situation versus using their brain. And a lot of times the meatheads are the guys that you see having a disproportionate amount of uses of force. Those guys are the ones that fuck it up for us intelligent law enforcement officers out here. They don't
know how to use a verbal judo.
Exactly. And I mean, look, man, verbal judo, I don't even like that term because you just can't. You can't. Using verbal judo, that shit does not work on everyone.
Yeah, it doesn't appease everybody.
It doesn't.
It's another tool. It's just another
exactly.
tool.
It's just a tool. And a lot of times, using your mouthpiece is probably one of the most important tools in law enforcement, honestly, because your mouthpiece can be the difference between having a rational conversation with somebody or having a fight for your life with somebody. You know what I mean? Because you don't know what these guys are, how their day was going. You don't know what's going on. And you could just be the trigger that basically causes them to have a mental break. So a lot of times you got to think about that when you're dealing with certain people. And this guy, he's probably a guy who's just not having a good day. He just got out of prison. He's probably angry because none of his family was there for him when he got out. Just having a badass day. And he just felt disrespected by the cop, and you got you got what you got. You know, the situation that transpired. You got somebody who's no longer breathing, and then you have two people whose lives are affected for the rest of their life. You know, and a lot of times I think people objectify law enforcement officers. They don't really think of them as real people. These are real people. They are not robots. Real people have emotions. Real people have, real people have bad days.
We're real,
Okay?
damn it.
Exactly. You can't objectify law enforcement guys. A lot of times, I would say the easiest way to deal with law enforcement is just if they're respectful with you, just be respectful back. You know, that's it. Because a lot of times that'll make your day go a lot easier. Because you got to remember, these guys get paid to do what they do. So when you're disrespectful, guess what? They're still getting paid while you're still, yeah, and you're wasting you're not getting paid to sit there on the side of the road while you're sitting there giving this guy attitude.
Oh wow, we need to do another show just on how a private citizen should deal with law enforcement.
That'd be awesome.
There was some things that opened up my mind about law enforcement too, because first of all, when I deal with law enforcement, I'm like, oh man, I get nervous. I'm like, okay, all right, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
So there was someone had said something to me when I was trying to volunteer at the prison nearby. Well, not nearby, but in the area. And, in the training class, they said that, when you come in, the corrections officers, they may seem a bit, I wouldn't say not hostile, but a little, curt to you or whatever, or they may, it may seem rude or whatever. And I said, look, these guys are in a hostile situation all the time. So they have to, basically everybody has their role to play. And I guess the direction I want to take this in is for the people on the line who are street smarts, who got the street smarts, how people size you up on the streets. Oh, is this dude soft? Oh, is he this? Oh, is he that? And, I've encountered that too, where people start trying to talk to you, size you up, and see, if you can handle yourself or whatever, if they got an easy mark.
What you really made of?
If you could go into that, because, I guess as a law enforcement officer, you have to present yourself in a way that commands respect and keeps this isn't for the private citizen who's doing right and going about their day, working their 9 to 5 and hustling and doing the right thing. This is for, the criminals out there who are looking at you, trying to look for soft targets, even with other people too. I don't know if you guys could just go into that a little bit.
Yeah. You want to go first or you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
We do that on a daily basis.
Yeah. Okay, look. Okay, I'm gonna give y'all a little background. Okay, when they say the thin blue line, probably a lot of y'all have heard of that term before. Okay, you've probably seen it on stickers. You see like this little blue line in between two black spaces. Okay, and you got two sides of that line, right? You got the wolves, and then you got the sheep, and then you have the sheepdog. Now, the blue line is what separates the wolves from the sheep. Now, don't take that as a negative connotation what that means is just basically you have the wolves who prey on what they perceive to be a weaker population, which would be sheep. All right. And law enforcement is supposed to be the AKA sheepdogs, which are supposed to protect the sheep from the wolves. Okay. A lot of times the wolves are, I'm going to tell you right now, majority of wolves are punks. Okay. A lot of times when you take away their weapon,
True fact.
they're cowards. Okay. You see it all the time. Yeah, it's the truth because, a weapon / firearm or a weapon, which would be anything, you can pick up and just use the, physically harm somebody. A lot of times when you take away these guys' weapons and their firearms, they're punks. What they do is when they go to prison, they join gangs because they are scared. Okay. A lot of times these guys are they were probably abused when they were younger. And like they said, you might have heard the term hurt people hurt people. It's the truth. People who are abused when they're younger grow up to hurt and abuse and harm people who they perceive to be weaker than themselves.
Okay.
So I'll turn it over to Suave, and he could explain his take on that also.
I like that. Real good, Mr. Tut. Real good, Mr. Tut. So it's almost like what she's saying is violence beget violence. It's embedded in them. So it's almost like they don't know how else to deal with it. So they just deal with it how it was put on them. So they give it back to the society, to the kids, to the wife, to some random person. They felt that they can express themselves properly. So they just gotta throw it back out in an aggressive manner because they think in their mind, they rationalize that that's normal. That's okay. That's good for them. And it's not. And what Mr. Tut said is, it's 100% true. A lot of these dudes, you get them in a room, you pull them to the side. From my time in one of my law enforcement settings, let's say corrections. You put one of these big bad dudes you see and people running scared. You put them in a room, 1-on-1, and it's a whole different person. It's a whole different thing. It's not even like you thought it was. One, how Mr. Tut said, the mouthpiece, you coming off as a professional, but at the same time, like the physicist said, we have that persona we have to carry, and it kind of is a mask that we have to put on day in, day out, because we don't know what situation we're going into. So, yes, not a lot of them join these gangs for protection also. So now they got backing. So when their mouth is running into a situation that the ass can't cash, now they got to go call somebody else because they know themselves they can't handle that situation. So now they need the backing of the group because they themselves are scared. So
exactly.
It really is a sizing up, and it's a lot of. Sometimes it's really just a lot of games. It'd be the people who's actually running the show. They never have no idea who's sending the little. Even though they're on the other side of that blue line, there's still a hierarchy on the other side of that blue line. So it's crazy. So on the other side of that blue line, you got the real wolves. So you got the baby wolf. So you got the little baby wolf sheeps. It's a whole nother society, a whole nother mentality. It's a whole nother organism on that side of let's say in a correctional setting.
Hold on a second. Are you cracking a blunt or something? I mean,
you chopping carrots.
Nah. What happened?
It sounds like you chopping carrots, bro.
For real?
Yeah. Sounds like you're on a cutting board, chopping a carrot, chopping vegetables up.
Nah, not at all. For the whole time?
Most of the conversation.
For the last couple of minutes.
Yeah.
And it's all good. I can still hear you, No,
I know. I'm just saying that. So now all the good stuff I was saying got clicks in it.
No. They heard it, man. And to add on to what you said, dude, the younger generations who people need to watch out for because look, I'm gonna tell you right now, 3/4 of the young generation. I'm gonna tell you, even 3/4 of criminals who are who I call them accidental murderers. Okay, because there are very few people who can sit there and actually take somebody's life with no remorse, no empathy at all. A lot of times, these people who you so-called killers are under the influence of drugs. Okay, period. I would say about 95% of these so-called killers are under the influence of drugs. These kids, they're under the influence of drugs, lean. I mean, you just hear it even in the rap music. You hear it in these younger kids' rap music.
Percocets.
Percocets, lean, weed. I mean, hard shit too. Probably heroin, coke, meth. Yeah, man. I wouldn't put past you. That's why these little kids are so vicious because their reality is warped due to them taking ingesting all of these substances, illegal substances. People need to understand that law enforcement is not an easy job, okay? And it goes on both sides of what I was talking about before in terms of where you have criminals who act out because they were hurt Same thing goes for some people who join law enforcement. Some people who join law enforcement because they were picked on in school. And basically that badge and that gun allows them, it gives them this almost like drunk off the power that they did not have while they were growing up. I'm not saying every law enforcement officer, but a lot of these law enforcement officers, okay? A lot of these law enforcement officers. And I'm going to even tell you, I'm going to put you on. People probably already know this, okay? You got a little subsection of law enforcement officers who are racist, obviously, and who basically took the job in order to oppress whatever racial group who they deem subhuman, in their sick thoughts. So you know that's why I also tell people a lot of times, man. Even though I know you want to save this for another show, but I just want to drop a little jewels for people, especially when you get involved, especially when you're a minority and you're involved in a traffic stop. Okay, a lot of times, man, this is what I tell people. Okay, number one, put all your windows down. If you have tinted windows, put them all down. Even if you have non-tinted windows, just put them all down. Turn your interior light on. Okay. If you want to go a step further, take your keys out the ignition. You put them on the sunroof so you don't mess up your paint. Throw them on the dashboard. Okay. You can put your hands out the window or keep your hands on the steering wheel. And another thing I tell people is, listen, you don't have to give, all information, write down information to Leo, but make sure you don't paint yourself into a situation by talking too much. Okay? Like they said, you don't want to say too much. I'm law enforcement. I tell you right now, you don't want to say too much to a law enforcement officer. Okay?
Stop snitching on yourself.
Yeah, stop snitching on yourself. A lot of you guys, y'all get mad and shit. Police pull you over. Like, why the fuck y'all pulling me over? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, you're snitching on yourself right there by you being belligerent off the bat. Because now you're giving the police officer even more probable cause to search either actually increase the time in your traffic stop, or A, call for additional assistance, or B, call for a dog, blah, blah, blah. Because guess what? They don't need a dog. They don't need your permission to bring a dog out and, run a dog around your car. Okay, especially for you guys who like to smoke weed, right? And don't smoke weed in your car. Like, come on. I'm trying to look. Don't smoke weed in your car and then get mad when police pull you over and you're sitting there on the side of the road, cuffed. Okay, talking about the police are harassing you, dude. Don't smoke weed in your car. Period. That's what you got your personal residence. You smoke outside of it, in the back, not in the front, in the public. All right. Okay, I'm gonna pass it over to Suave. I'm pretty sure he has some other jewels to drop for y'all, man.
As far as our topic for today, we touched more than we needed to. We gave you a couple nuggets on the next show. Beat physicist, go on, close us out, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right, yeah. That was great. I didn't even get through all my notes. But again, we could save this for the next show. We could do a special on, just the law enforcement in general, the history of it. We could break down Sir Robert Peel's principles, and, the necessary function of police, why they exist, in our modern society, the different types of law enforcement, and we'll get on into that next. But I think this is really good to give to the listeners. Let me thank our guest first, King Tut. Thank you. Yes, Your Grace.
Your Hynde.
Thank you. Thank you for blessing us and dropping the jewels. I was hanging on every word, and I'm sure our listeners are going to be hanging on every word too. And I'm just thanks again for blessing us. And damn, we want to have you back. We got to do another special. We got to.
Oh, no problem, man. Thanks for having me. I like to be surrounded by, especially men who who are on common ground, even though we're in different. We might be in a different professional occupation, but we can still talk, as peers, especially when it comes to different aspects of life, because we've all lived pretty varied lives, coming up.
Yeah, absolutely.
And thank you, Suave, for bringing me on. He's like a brother to me, and I'll tell you, man, like it's like we're going through life together. Like when it comes to in terms of certain things, you know what I mean? So, like I learn a lot from him, and I'm pretty sure he learns a lot from me, and hopefully, as the show goes on, and every so often I'm on the show, I can learn a lot from the people who are on the show, because I definitely have a lot of information to share with us and also with the listeners out there.
I like it. Sensei Buddha, you want to close out?
Yes. Oh no, definitely. I think King Tut brings a definite, strong, positive energy to the show, and I enjoyed it. I just, I think the podcast is growing strong, and with individuals and brothers like this, we can definitely do it. Mr. Suave, you know I always enjoy hearing your commentary, and I love Brother Drew's commentary too. Hey man, brother brings the heat. He brings the heat, and especially with all that technical stuff about the capacitors and stuff like that, because now we get and touch them up with some science. And you always see that it's not just about being brutes. You got to have tactics and approaches to some of these situations. And again, just good dynamic energy. And thank you for having me here on the show as well, always, man. It was a great show.
Brother, this your show? What the hell you talking about?
Hey, brother, check it out. I might be a quote unquote, headliner, but as we already know, man, there's no such thing as a one-man show. When we were doing the bouncing, when we were doing the escorts and stuff like that, and we had to remove people, and we did it real cool and on the slick and smooth. When you do something really cool and slick, and nobody even knows you handle the problem, it's dope. Sometimes you get some dude, they're like Mr. Peterson, they want to turn up. But when everybody converges on that ass like Voltron, and you can handle a situation, and you all know what you're doing, and you don't nullify each other, that's when you know you got a good team. It's always going to be about the team. I've never, ever, 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 ever thought about myself as an individual. Like, yo, I'm the man. No way. No way, man. No way. People think that way. And it's so funny because I had an experience meeting another martial arts instructor who was extremely insulting and vulgar to me. And I had to put him in check. And we'll definitely get into that off air or whatever the case may be. And just, you just meet some weird individuals. We got to do a show on people who are weird individuals like that. But attacks come in many forms. And before a physical attack, you got some people who want to use a mental attack, a psychosomatic attack. They want to tear you down mentally. And then when you respond and then they're completely thrown off their game, they're like, oh, snap, this guy ain't going for it. Is he going to even take it to the next level, calling my bluff and kick my teeth out? Have me spit in my teeth like chiclets gum? Yeah, brother. Yeah.
And sometimes they do that on purpose, because when you do hit, turn up to that next level, and I call it, you beats by Dre, they get them beats by Dre. Guess what? They call them police.
Yes. Oh man, touch. You hit it on the head. It happens so much, and it even happened in the club. And we're trying to tell these guys, hey man, it doesn't have to be all that. You had a problem with one of the servers, with a waitress. Check it out. Right now, it looks real cool. Come back next week. Call my name. And I get it all the time. Yo, forget you, Biggie. Yo, Biggie, yo, Biggie, yo, Biggie. One guy telling me he's going to stuff Dunkin' Donuts up my ass.
You like, pause.
Disrespect, son.
And then yet he's being carried out Jesus Christ crucifixion style out the club.
Jazzy Jeff them.
We gotta fold it up.
Oh, brother, had him. One brother had the right leg, another had the left. A brother had the arm. I was carrying up underneath, holding up his back. We carried him out Jesus cross style. Put him on the curb. Put him.
And go about your business. Good.
Man. Yeah, brother. We had the cops because that's our only protection. People try to say, "Oh man, why you squealing? Why you getting the cops?" It's like, no, we need a report. So he decided to come back. Just
exactly
to get his ass.
And some, yeah.
Go right ahead.
Oh, sorry, man. I don't mean to cut you off. A lot of municipalities require law enforcement to actually work security at the club. So,
yes.
I don't know. A lot of people think, people just hire, police and security. No, they're required to, So,
yes. And a lot of those clubs and bars and stuff, they have a direct line to the fire department and the police department. And those guys, they come real quick because they look at it as like, hey, man, you're messing with our place. We can't have that. And these guys, they come and they talk to all the staff, not just the bouncers. They come in there, they talk with the waitresses, they talk with the waiters. Some of them, hey, man, because the waitresses are hot. Hey, man, law enforcement guy go in there, pick him up a shorty. But more importantly, if we're in a fight, and then they can reach to the phone because we can't get to the phone because you're just dealing out knuckles or you got to pin a person down. All of a sudden, we get lights and sirens and cats are just jumping out of the woodwork. Hey, man, what's up? And they're like, hey, here he is for you. They bag him, tag him, cuff him, start patting him down all the way through his ass cracks, brother. And they gently put him in the ass.
They don't want the ass crack search. They're going to be found charged about the police raping them.
They pat him down well, and then they put him discreetly in the car, and we don't see that cat for the rest of the night. And usually they never come back because it dawns on them, no, man, I got handled by the bouncers, and the cops just arrested me. Law enforcement had to lay hands on me, wrote a report. He had to sit down in the tubes for a little bit. Tubes, you probably that's over here. He's over here at 1 Center Street or over here by City Hall, real close. The tubes is basically a jail. When they gotta go to the court, like that, they gotta wait for the judge. So you're talking about if it's on a Friday night, you may not see
the weekend.
Yeah. So now they gotta sit there waiting for their prince to come back and going through a whole process saying, damn, all I had to do was walk out and leave. I could have came back next week or even just went peacefully to another spot. But they want to show out. And it's like, dude, you're not gonna win. Even if you got 5 of your guys, there's 15 of us. And we're not trying to fight with you. We're trying to use reason. It's an amazing thing, man. It's an amazing thing. And it just like in this situation with Officer Lovell, he was using great communication skills. When you see that the guy came out of your patrol car, he's not responding to communications, and you step it up to let him know what to do and sit down and lay down. Let's talk. To me, the only real crime there was that he's alone. I cannot stand seeing any security in a club working alone. Like some bars are small enough and they'll just put a man at the door to check IDs. I'm completely against it. You always need a team, a group of guys. Because what if 3 or 4 people say, you know what, hell with this guy, I'm going to crash this club. They see one police officer and he has to deal with even 1 or maybe 2 guys. They're going to say, hey man, we can tackle these 2 of us and only 1 of him. I've always been dead set against seeing a single lone officer, unless he, of course, is driving his patrol car in home, to his base. I understand that. But to me, there should always be 2 cops in the car, and they got to hook up the way how they stack the patrols. That when the officer calls for backup, they're in 2 minutes or less. They've got to run those trails.
And let me tell you, that works both ways too. I don't think it's necessarily a budgetary thing when it comes to placing two officers in a car, because in the end, when you have 2 officers, that's 2 sets of eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
And when a situation happens, I mean, for both ways, it goes from police brutality to on the opposite side where you have somebody who's accusing somebody of something they did and that wasn't the case. Even though you do, as much as you do have the blue wall silence though. and that's the truth. Okay, that does happen, but in the most officers are just trying to do their job and then go home, man. Okay, these guys, most officers aren't trying to sit there and get themselves possibly in a jammed up situation. Especially now that now law enforcement job is so heavily politicized in the media, a lot of officers are going hands off when it comes to certain things. They're thinking twice, 3 times before using force too. That's why if you'll notice there's an uptick in there's an uptick in cities who are heavily politicizing policing, because they're saying, okay, since you want to crucify us for every use of force, guess what? We're not going to do nothing.
I agree.
All right.
Yep. But we'll save that for another show.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Be physicist.
Yeah.
You brother.
Again, more gems getting dropped. Unfortunately, folks. Yeah.
Gem Nation.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, folks, we got to wrap it up. I'm sure Beat Physicist has somewhere to go. I heard him. Were you cracking a blunt on the table or something while we were talking?
Sir, you are Beat Physicist, so you incriminating yourself.
So.
Stop snitching.
I might have to edit this out in post. But yeah. So yeah. Again, folks, thanks for rolling with us. You know how it is. You know how we do it. Hindsight, trying to give you all angles to the situations we're looking at and you're looking at in the media, so that get a better perspective. And, just in case you come across something similar, you'd be more prepared for it. But yeah, thanks for rolling with us. Again, King Tut, glad to have you on the show.
Happy to be here.
Mr. Suave, thank you, of course. And Sensei Buddha, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, folks, we're signing off.
Peace.
Peace.